Hello and welcome to Off Track. I'm your host Dave Neal, and today my guest is Rich Energy OMG Racing Yamaha's Bradley Ray. The chat was recorded at Donington Park on the Thursday afternoon before Brad took a raft of points to lay just 7 shy of becoming the 2022 Bennetts British Superbike Champion. Remember to like, share, save, subscribe, tell your friends, and without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Bradley Ray. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to Off Track. I'm your host Dave Neal, and since we've done this podcast for the best part of 18 months, one of the early guests on the podcast was just as he started with the Rich Energy OMG racing team, and now championship leader of the Bennetts British Superbike Championship. Brad Ray, welcome back, mate.
How you doing, all right?
Yeah, good. I'm good. Mate, what a season so far. We'll come on to that shortly. In fact, no, let's go into it now, and we'll talk about the BMW time and how we got to where we are now. But your most successful season in your BSB career so far. Talk us through it, mate. What were your expectations at the start of the season?
Yeah, unbelievable, really. To be honest, the expectation at the start of the year was to have a strong year. Obviously, we've done some testing the end of the 2021 season in Spain with the new Yamaha. They sent a couple of the McCam's team out and a couple of the bikes from that season. So we was able to test at Cartagena for a couple of days out there and get basically a shakedown on the bike. And straight away, both myself and Carl knew, and the team knew, that we've got a real good package underneath us heading into the next season. So I went into winter quite motivated and quite ready for the new season. And yeah, it just hit the ground running. Really felt really at home with the bike, felt really at home with the team, and we sort of just carried on the work that we'd done in Spain. Carried it through pre-season, was really strong, and just carried that momentum into the new BSB season. And to be honest, I never expected to be this consistent and this strong with all the podiums, wins, and consistent results. But to be honest, I knew I had it in me, but you can never play out a season and say, right, I'm going to be on the podium this many times, I'm going to have this sort of results, because BSB is so strong and so competitive that it is hard to even get on the podium in BSB. So to be as competitive as I have been and to be getting the results I have been is quite special.
Coming off 2 years on a BMW, which were difficult times, both for the previous BMW team and under our banner as well. If I remember rightly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, when you got off the bike at Cartagena, off the McCam's Yamaha R1 at Cartagena after your first set of laps, that's how a race bike should feel, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, exactly.
And the grin on your face,
exactly that,
was like, welcome back, Brad.
Yeah, no, it was exactly like that, because we've been there for a few days, and obviously I've been riding just any bike that's been there. I rode the track bike R1, just like a road bike. I've also been riding, Alan's got an R6 that he brought, I think 2013 or 14 R6, and I've been riding that, and I got on that and I thought, you know what, that's unbelievable. Like, it handles well, it stops, it turns, it feels like a proper race bike. So yeah, we weren't planning on riding, so basically we had 2 days planned on track with the R1 with the McCam's bike. And everything was ready and done and set out, and it got to about 4:30 on the day before, and me and Carl were just sort of sitting around chatting, and the boys said, why don't you send them out for a couple of laps? And the team were like, no, we'll do it all tomorrow. And I was sat there like shaking, thinking, I want to get out on the bike, I want to get out. And they turned around and said, right, you boys can have 6 laps each, get a shakedown. And literally, me and Carl got in our levers within 3 minutes and was like helmets on, ready to go. And no, honestly, it was such a relief and such a nice feeling. Jumped on the bike, felt at home straight away. Come in and was literally absolutely peaking, because we knew that we had another 2 days then to get more up to speed, to understand a lot more. But the initial, you always know from your first sort of 5 or 10 laps with a bike if it's sort of like the way forward, and we both got off the bike grinning and was super happy to get to bed and get out the next day on the bike and get to work, really.
You'd had a full season on an R6 in British Supersport, hadn't you, which was 2016?
2016, yeah.
But I think most people, in fairness to the team and in fairness to you, it wasn't a Martrain bike, it wasn't an Appleyard's bike. It was what's the word I'm looking for? You can probably explain it better. It wasn't the front end bike.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
You still had to haul it round, and I think for me, knowing that bike wasn't quite at the spec of your Martrains and your Appleyards, to do what you did on that, I think that was the glimmer that, like, when you think back, hang on a minute, if he did that on that, what's he going to do on this?
Yeah, it was like that. I mean, the end of 2015 season was quite difficult. We were sort of in like a little bit of a no man's land, really. I rode for motor breakers on the stock 6, so we just done round by round. I come off the back of being in Moto 2 in Spanish Championship on this prototype bike that wasn't very good. We ended up doing a couple of rounds and then sacked that off and said to the team, it's not working. We need to just go back into Britain. And yeah, basically just start because my first aim was to obviously make it as in the GP route, which was Moto 3, Moto 2, and go up through that way in Spanish Championship and try and find a route into GP. But we ended up coming back into BSB, doing the sort of normal route, which was stock 6, super sport, and then see where you go from there. But yeah, the end of the 2015 season, my manager at the time, Roger Keys, he said to me, right, why don't we just do our own team, buy an R6, get the engines built by Mark Sadler, and yeah, basically run a team next year in Supersport. And I said, yeah, I'm made up with that. If we can do that, I'd be spot on, because my aim was to be into Supersport, but there was no sort of doors open or no teams available at the time. So he brought a bike off, I think it was Adam Blacklock at the time, and Adam Blacklock brought that off Scott Redding when he first joined Moto 2 in 2010. So that was like his practice bike, and we brought that off him. It was, to be honest, it was a bit of a shed. Turned up at the first 2 rounds, and the bike was horrendous. It wouldn't handle, it wouldn't go around corners. There was definitely something fundamentally wrong with it. And I was losing the will to ride, sort of thing. I said to Mum and Dad, I said, I can't, like, the bike's not right, I can't keep riding. I said, I'd rather not even go to the next round. I said, I'd rather sack it off and just sit it out, because something's not working and it's not looking good for me. So Roger said, right, we'll go, because his son owns like a Yamaha shop at the time. So he said, right, we'll buy a bike, get it a little bit cheaper than what you can normally, and we'll just buy a brand new bike and run it as a sort of brand new package. Got on that, and I straight away was like a completely different motorbike. And then from there onwards, we was able to, I think the first round I got in, it was Snetterton. I think we got on the box at Snet, and then went to Thruxton, got another podium there, and then I think we went on to pretty much podium every other round. And it was me, Taz and Westy that year that were battling. But the first 2 rounds I scored no points in the first 6 races, so that hindered me. But I come to Brands at the end of the year and was going into last race. I think if I had to win it to finish second in the championship, but Taz beat me to the line, so I ended up finishing third by a couple of points. But going into it, I still had a chance to fight for the championship with Taz, so that was quite a special year. But that was like the turnaround year for me, the 2016 Supersport. But yeah, it's just one of them where you've got it in you, but the package that wasn't underneath you. But we managed to buy the bike, run the team as a satellite team. Basically, we brought the R6, brought all the parts, had the engines done. I had Steve Bones, who's built the FTR chassis. He was my sort of data man and crew chief. I had Colin from 100% Suspension doing my suspension for the year, and then it's basically Dad and Rob that were doing the spanners. So yeah, it's just like a dad and lad and team going racing. But we made a good mark in the Supersport Championship that year.
Well, you can tell we're at Donington Park. Yeah, that'll be that Ryanair flight that's doing circuits.
There are a couple of boys coming in on that, I reckon.
He's just going round and round. He's just practicing. Do I remember right? You set that record at Brands on the Supersport.
Possibly. I can't remember one of the races I did. I don't know what track it was at, but. It might have been Cadwell.
Was it the Cadwell?
Yeah,
I knew you set a lap record somewhere.
Yeah, I qualified pole at Cadwell by quite a chunk, and then that was my first win at Cadwell on the Supersport, and then managed to do a double there as well. So that was quite a special weekend. But yeah, it's just one of them years where you got obviously Taz was with WD-40, which was like a pretty good run team. We had the I think it's Raceways at the time. with Westy and Francis, and then we was just dad and lad going racing, and we managed to make a good stamp in the Supersport Championship.
Prior to that, I mean, we'll just knock it back just to give the listeners a bit of an idea, because you've genuinely had to battle your way to get to where you are today. Yeah. There's no two ways about that. I remember you didn't get really chance to do a full season of anything because you had Red Bull Rookies that you were successful in. There was the MotoStar Championship at the time, which you turned up on a Mahindra.
Yeah. I did one round, for the last few races.
You came here on a Mahindra.
I remember here, that. I think my first ride on it was Brands GP. I think the first ride was in 2013. Yeah,
Little Silver Dream racer.
Yeah, it was a weapon. Yeah, it was a good thing.
Was it an XGP?
Yeah, it was the exact bike that Danny Webb set pole on at Valencia, and brought it to the UK, and it was a different gravy. The bike was quite a lot different, but we had Roberto's name was, who ran all the electronics and basically set the thing up, and he was super clever, so we got the maximum out of it. But we had quite a few issues with because obviously the two-stroke stopped then. There wasn't any people like making parts or building engine parts, so we had a couple of engines that were genuine Aprilia with the genuine cranks and pistons and things like that, and then we had like a couple of cranks that were sort of built by other people, and we must have had 6 to 8 cranks go that season. Like literally we'd go out and do, I don't know, 10 or 15 laps, a crank go, so they'd come in, split the engine, put another crank in, and Roberto, bless him, was pulling his hair out because he's like a top two-stroke tuner and engineer, and he couldn't understand what the problem was, so he kept taking his cranks back and trying to find out what was wrong with it. But we ended up just running pretty much the same engine all year that done well over mileage, but just kept going. So it was quite a good year.
And then after that, with the motor breakers, I think, did you stick it on the box on your first appearance with them at Alton Park? I think was that maybe your first time on a stock set?
Yeah, I think that was the second time. I joined them at Brands, I think. Done the Brands GP round, which was my first time on a stock 6 and on a Kawasaki. Done that, and then head to Alton. I think I qualified okay, but got a good start, and Mason was in front of me. He pulled away, and I managed to get into second and just like chased him down, but didn't have enough laps to pass him for the win. But that was my first sort of I'd say shine through in British Championship.
Which, because like you say, you'd been away to Spain and places before that, and you'd ridden the virus and all the other things, and it was all coming together. So take us forward then. You got your chance with Hawk Suzuki, which for me I think is a fantastic team to enter into British Championship racing. One of those, without doing them a disservice, they're sort of upper middle tier to bring in, and that's where the name Bradley Ray finally came to the fore, which sometimes when you do the old Sky Plus, they still have the 28 on there,
the old school
the
one.
Old school picture with you on it. And then they've changed that to the new one. So there's a lot of love from Sky TV because they put it on with the Yamaha now. Coming into the British Superbike Championship at the time, Shaky was still riding 2017, Leon Haslam. It was a stacked out grid. Did you feel like you belonged from the start, or did you feel like you needed to earn your spurs?
A bit of both, really. I had no pressure from the team because obviously the team was set up alongside the factory team. So to be honest, we were pretty much on like a stockish, because the Suzuki just come out. So all the factory parts were obviously with the factory team. I started on almost like a stockish bike. And they said just find your way, learn the superbike. There's no pressure, no pressure to get results or anything like that. So I literally just went out and rode naturally. I didn't think about it. Didn't think that I was on a superbike. Didn't think that I was racing against Shaky, Haslam, all people like that. I just went out and done the best job I could and managed to find my way out of quite a few crashes at the start. I'm not normally a crasher, but I think that year I must have had about 8 crashes or something, 8 to 10 crashes on the superbike. But yeah, just finding my way really, and the team were understanding. The team were really good, and they obviously saw a lot of potential in me to then sign me again for the next 2 years. But my actual plan was the end of 2016. to stay in Supersport, because we'd done that year. We'd done 1 year. We had all the bike, all the kit, everything to go again. So I said to Dad and Roger at the time, I said, we might as well just go again. So we had a good chance of winning the championship this year. If we can start next year with the same bike, same package, so we'll be fighting for the championship again. So that'd be better for my career and my stock market. But literally, I sat having breakfast on, I think it was like Christmas Eve or something like that. We went to the Harvester with my mum and brother, and got a missed call from an unknown number, and I thought, okay. And then the voicemail come through, so I opened it, and he said, Stuart Hicken here from Bill Bay Suzuki, just wanted to ring you up, see what your plans were for next season. If you're interested, we got a superbike ride to offer you. If you want it, just give me a call back. And I was like, you'd never guess. I said to mum and brother, I said, you never guess what, I've got an option to go in superbike. And then at that point, it took me a couple of weeks to decide at the time, because I thought, do I go into superbike and do average with obviously a brand new bike that's not sort of released yet, or do I stay in Supersport, win a load of races, which then could potentially move me into World Supersport and go that route? But at the time, I thought, you know what, I've just been offered a superbike ride, I've got to take it. And from that point onwards, it's just managed to keep myself in here and do a good job for them.
Doesn't happen to me. What were you at the time? 20? In 19, 20?
2016 it was. So what would I have been?
19. Yeah, 19.
19.
You're
yeah.
25 now, aren't you?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it would have been 19.
So that's not bad for a 19-year-old, is it?
No.
To come in, it's almost like looking a gift horse in the mouth. You've got to be. Well, this is the opportunity now.
If I turn this down, I might not get a chance to go again. But
there's been some highlights in that time, especially as we're sat here now at Donington Park. The double win at the start of
2018. That
18,
was,
wasn't it?
Yeah,
that one.
Yeah.
So double win set you up for the season, and it didn't quite go to plan.
No.
There were highlights and lowlights. Was that the year you went to Suzuka?
Suzuka, I went to in 2018. Yeah.
Which is an incredible for any rider.
Yeah,
I can't even begin to imagine what that's like.
No, it was a joke. It was it's something I didn't really know a lot about, and I spoke with Steve and Stuart, and they said, you could possibly go and do Suzuka 8 Hour if you want. So I sort of had a look into it, and I thought, that'd be unbelievable if I could do that. So they lined up a test in Suzuka with the Yoshimura team. So basically, you got to go there and see if you're fast enough and capable enough to do the 8 Hour, because it's such a prestige event and so important to the Japanese. It happens once a year that they need to have the best crew and the best team to get the best results. So I went out, done a 2-day test there on the Yoshimura bike. And just the first day I was steady away, just learning the track, never been there, and I've never been on that bike. And then the second day they saw I got up to speed quite quick, and we started to get a move on, and they actually sent me out with, I think Suda it was, which is their like top rider at the time. They sent me out with him on a new set of tyres, and basically said just try and keep up, sort of thing. So I actually kept up with him for 2 laps and was only like 0.1 off his lap time. So Steve said obviously that was real good for me, and emails went back and forth, and they then brought me out for another test. I think I went out there 3 times before the actual race event that year. I've been to Japan a few times, but to do the 8 Hour was incredible. Just like another experience. If anyone gets a chance to do it, I would 100% do it, because it's the atmosphere is fantastic, the track's unbelievable, the night riding's good, just actually doing the 8 hours, because obviously it's like 35 degrees and the humidity's through the roof, so it's like super hot. But I'd 100% do it again.
Just the last question on Suzuka, the difference between a BSB Superbike and a full fat Yoshimura Suzuka Special. What was it like for you to ride one of those? Yeah,
it was quite a bit different. The biggest thing was obviously electronics and the tyres, because obviously they run Bridgestone tyres, and we run Pirelli, and they have the full magnetic Pirelli system, which is full traction control and anti-wheelie. So to be honest, I didn't let myself ride into the traction control. I sort of stayed out of it as much as I could. Obviously a few corners you had to go into it, but I tried to stay away because I knew I had a job to do in the UK, so I had to try and get my head around not using it as much. But the biggest thing was the tyres. Like the tyres out there, the Bridgestones are just phenomenal. The first lap or so is a bit sort of sketchy, but once you get through that first few laps, it's like the tyres are a joke. Like the lean angle you can carry and the grip, like the feeling is at another level. But yeah, it was a little bit different coming back to the UK, but I found that you get a bit more feel from the Pirelli tyre, a bit more movements, you understood more where you was, but the lean angle and grip you got from the Bridgestone was just a joke.
Mind you, I've seen some photos of you recently from this season with the lean angle. You're not doing too bad so far.
Yeah, no, it's not bad on the
There's not much between them now.
No, definitely not.
You can crank her over, son.
Yeah, we have a good go, don't we? We have a good go.
Moving on from then to, we'll get a bit closer to now. BMW with a different team, onto the BMW with us last year, which was difficult for everybody, it's fair to say. On the cusp of the showdown, Silverstone was particularly stressful. Mm-hmm. There's so much that could have gone your way and the team's way that unfortunately didn't. But to become so close to the showdown, you got the podium here, mm-hmm. the first podium for you and for the team since Josh Elliott in 19.
Yeah.
And then another podium at Donington Park later on.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a particularly written off season, but then to jump onto the Yamaha at the beginning of December, that must have been the breath of fresh air to ride from a bike that was so difficult to one that became so easy.
Yeah.
It's not hard to see why things are going so well this season.
Yeah, definitely. The BMW was a difficult bike. I think not just our team, I think all the teams last year struggled. I think some of the other teams, I think Hickey got quite a few decent results on the bike, but it was a similar thing. It was like a yo-yo. You'd have a good couple of rounds and then you'd find yourself like battling for 10th and 12th for no reason really. But yeah, we had a good few rounds on the BMW, made a couple of podiums and some solid results, but overall it's quite a difficult season with that bike. I think slowly they're making progress with it. You can see that in World Championship and you can see it in BSB, but I still think it's a difficult package and a difficult bike to get the best out of. But yeah, it's so nice to get on the Yamaha and just feel right at home. I think I've always said and I've always wanted to be on the Yamaha from the Supersport days, because I feel like it's a bike that suits the way I ride. Big fast corner speed, letting off the brake, letting the bike turn. That's the way the Yamaha likes to be ridden. That's the way I ride naturally. So it was sort of like sort of like a no-brainer really to be on the Yamaha for this season. But I think it might not work for everyone. Everyone always says, oh, he's only doing well because he's on a Yamaha and this, that and the other. But I genuinely feel that if you put me back on a BMW now or you put me on a different manufacturer, I'd still be getting solid results because I feel a lot more confident in myself. I feel a better rider. I've matured quite a lot over the winter. So I feel
really from some of the stuff I've seen this year.
I know. You wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it. But yeah, I genuinely feel like a different rider. But the Yamaha's just I'm getting the best out of the Yamaha and the Yamaha's getting the best out of me as a rider, so it's just like a perfect package.
So the whole package is giving you the confidence to mature rather than...
Yeah.
You're the same Bradley Ray that was at Cinetic, the same Bradley Ray that was at Hawk. I get the impression it's very important for you to be you.
Yeah.
On a race weekend away from the racetrack, you're unique in a lot of ways, that you're very laid back, very grounded, very focused when the job's to be done, but away from it you're like a naughty school kid.
Yeah.
For me, as the listeners know, I've been press officer for you for the last sort of 18 months. It's been an absolute joy to work with you this year because as much stick as you give me, you still do the job that you're asked.
Yeah.
And to way that it's unfolded this season, I think we've seen the best Bradley Ray in British Superbikes ever.
Yeah, no, 100%. I totally agree. And I think over the years it becomes. I remember going back to 2018. I remember doing the double, and all of a sudden everything just went absolutely mad. Social media went mad. Like the fans, the press, everything went just mad because it was obviously unexpected for me to do that. And then I went to Brands the couple of weeks after Brands India. Ended up setting pole. I think Shaky was second on the grid. And I remember he pulled me aside. He said, "Look, Brad," he said, "you're doing great. Like everything's like real good." But he said, "Don't let any of this pressure get to you." He said, "If anything gets too much, you just tell them to back off and just do your own thing." 'Cause he said they'll be on you like leeches now. He said, "You've done a good job," but he said, "Don't let any of it get to you." And I remember him saying that, and genuinely actually did it. Like, it did start to, I think, affect my riding a little bit. But yeah, I'd have like a few good rounds, a few bad rounds, and then like just the way it all unfolds. But I've learned a lot over the years now, that like ways to deal with things and ways to move forward and like treat the weekends, that like how to work around the weekends, how to work like from leaving the track on the Monday in between race weekends. There's a lot that goes into it, not just at the track. Obviously, we go out, ride a bike, come in, but it's all the things that you start the weekend with and finish the weekend with and move forward, that has made this year a lot sort of easier. But yeah, it's just trying to find. It took me a few years, but it's just trying to find the balance with racing and with normal life and the way you go about your business, basically. Because people say, right, he trains 6 days a week, he eats this food, he eats that food, he does this, he does that. You think, right, if he's doing that and he's winning, I need to do that. So then you go and train 6 days a week, or you go 7 days a week, so you're one ahead of him. And then you go, right, he's eating 100 grams of pasta, or I eat 90 grams of pasta. And like, you find yourself comparing, you find yourself comparing to other people, and what works for them might not work for you. So you just got to find a balance in what you do. So there's been a couple of years where I've gone, right, I need to knuckle down, I need to train like this, I need to eat well, I need to do that. But then for me, that took the fun away from racing. It become too serious and too regimental, yeah. So I found a real good balance this year with everything, with general life, with training, with what I'm eating, with how I approach the weekends, and a lot of that has come from Shaky, to be honest, with what he's done in his career. Because I always speak to him and ask for advice and like what he would do in certain situations and scenarios, and how he'd train and how he'd like eat and things like that. So I've learned a lot in the last couple of years just from being with him. And he said, mate, as long as it works for you, that's all that matters. Because he said, you're Bradley Ray and you're going out there and doing the job. It doesn't matter if it works for them or doesn't work for them. It's irrelevant. He said, as long as you get to the weekend, you've trained the maximum you can, you feel like you're going to every weekend doing the best, doing the most you could have done, eating the right foods, mentally prepared. He said, you can't do much more than that. He said, it doesn't matter what anyone else is doing. So he said, as long as you're feeling good in yourself and you've worked hard through the week, and come to the weekend prepared, then that's all you can do. Just let your natural ability and talent take over.
That's age and maturity, and experience. Yeah. Because at that time when he's coming in to talking to you when you're sort of 20, 21, 22, it's a pivotal time in your career. It's a pivotal time in life for anybody, let alone a superbike rider. Yeah. And you're influenced by outside things and people, and you kind of don't know where you are sometimes. Yeah. And you can, well, if he's doing that, I need to, and you constantly comparing, never more so these days, and in social media,
100%,
comparing yourselves and everything else. And one thing that let's talk about Shaky while we're on that subject. How much influence has he been, and what positives do you take away from him over the time that you've been sort of manager and rider and mates as well?
Yeah, no, definitely. We actually. Yeah, we first started just to be sort of mates, and the first. Well, obviously, I knew him quite well in 2017. We chatted a few times when I first stepped up into Superbike, and then obviously we had Donington, and we had quite a good battle at Brands together. He actually beat me to the line because I made a mistake. But yeah, from then onwards, we sort of like we'd chat a few times, and then we'd maybe go on a cycle on the Thursday before race weekend and just chill with him. And it's because we're obviously Southerners, we come from like local areas. He said we need to keep the Southerners together. Kent massive, yeah. So yeah, we obviously knew each other quite well. But yeah, then he had that accident in 2018, which stopped him riding. And then it was the start of the middle of 2019 season. He approached me. And said like, who's managing you? What's the crack? Because him and Matt Roberts wanted to open up like a managing company and bring young riders through. And he said, obviously, riding with me and working with me for a little while. He sees a lot of potential in me and wants to help me sort of progress. So I thought it's a no-brainer. What he's done in his career and where he's been and what he's been through, and still that year was super fast, so he knows the tracks, he knows the bikes, he's still got the speed. It was a no-brainer. So yeah, we just started working together the end of 2019 and then started from there onwards. But it's not even just what he's done, it's just how he approaches a weekend with me through like this, especially this year alone. Like last year we started to work together a little bit in the garage. He would come and listen to my feedback, and then he would sort of have an opinion and speak to me and see how I'm feeling, and we'd work out a plan sort of thing. But especially this year, he's been at the track every weekend. We go on a track walk on Thursday. I always ask him for advice, especially on bits of the tracks I don't really know or not sure of. We'd sit down and go through all of that, and then Friday he'd be there all day. So we'd come in debriefs, and he'd be there in between sessions. So we'd be chatting, me, him, and Dave, and just having that person, because I can speak to him about a session or about the track, and then I can go back to the camper and just have a general chat with him about cycling or about anything. And we're like real good mates as well. So he's played a massive part in this season of keeping me calm in situations, and also bigging me up when I need to. So he keeps me at a level. He knows exactly what I'm capable of doing. He knows there's some special talent inside of me, and he saw that, and he believes that I can go all the way. So having that from him is quite special. So yeah, we work together. We got like a little routine, a little plan, and we just crack on and work together like thick as thieves we are.
Thick as thieves, man.
Yeah.
Thick as thieves. Wide driver. What's the single biggest piece of advice he's ever given you that you can share?
Yeah, he's there's a few things he's quite unique with, but he said just enjoy it. That's ultimately what it comes down to, because we start motorcycle racing as a hobby and as like doing it as fun, but ultimately at some point it's got to become a job and a career, which it has done now. And it's just keeping that balance of it's a job, you got a job to do, but it's also the fun that when you started, that's what you started it for, because you absolutely love doing it. So it's keeping a balance. But he always says just go out and enjoy it. Just don't think about it too much. Just go out and enjoy. Set the weekends up. Work hard through Fridays and Saturdays, which makes the Sundays a little bit easier. And there's plenty of little tiny bits of advice that he's given me that's helped me massively. But that's for just me.
Yeah, no, that's why I say it's what you can share and what you can't share.
Yeah.
This season has been phenomenal. What we're on, 8 wins, 12 further podium, something like that.
To that, yeah.
Fastest 3 lap records.
Yeah.
It surpasses, I think, anything that you were expecting this season.
Yeah.
The idea at the start of the season was, with the help that we were having from Yamaha, that McCams had finished 1-2. We've got the lads that are more than capable of finishing 3rd and 4th.
Yeah.
But to come out of the blocks, 2 podiums at the first round. We'll not mention race 2.
Yeah.
To then go on to Alton Park and pick up your first win. Did you do the double that weekend?
Double, yeah.
You did the double
and
Saturday
third,
and Sunday, and then a third, didn't you? That's right. Talk us through that first weekend and the lap record as well.
Yeah, no, that was quite a special weekend. I actually, coming off obviously Silverstone, I was really strong there. Got the 2 podiums, but I was absolutely devastated with crashing out the lead. I didn't have that many laps left. I think 7 laps. I led the whole race, and yet just made a small mistake that really sort of got to me, especially after being so strong. And I knew I had the victory there. I just started to pull a gap on Glenn and was just settling in and made a small mistake. But from that, I just used that as motivation, because I knew I should have won that, so I need to go to Alton and I need to win. And it was I've had it a couple of times in my career, and a couple of times this year, that I was driving up to Alton, and before the weekend even started, I knew I was going to win. it was such a strange feeling. I was driving up, I was like, I could see myself like clearing off, I could see myself winning the race and standing on the top step of the podium. I could see that, and I knew it was going to happen. And after obviously I can't remember where I qualified. I think it was damp, wasn't it? And I think I qualified seventh, yeah, because free practice I had a real strong 33.7, I think, in free practice, and didn't get a chance to be able to do a lap in qualifying. But yeah, going into that race, I just thought I need to get to the front and go, and that's literally all I've done. And it was honestly such a strange feeling, because I got to the front and I just thought, right, I got to, I think maybe lap 3 or 4, got in front, started to pull a gap, and I thought, I've won this. I've won it. I've still got 8 laps to go, but I thought I've won this, because there's a couple of birds in here. Look,
a couple of sparrows.
Look.
They'll find the way out eventually. A pair of sparrows.
Bless them. But yeah, no. I got to the front and just thought, I've won this now. It was such a strange feeling. But yeah, that cool down lap was such a relief, because I obviously haven't had a win since 2018. I got on the podium twice the year before, but never got the victory. And in yourself, you sort of think, do you know what? Maybe 2018 was my prime year. Everyone else has got quicker, and I've stayed the same, and I haven't. Maybe it's not the bikes. Maybe it's me. Maybe
Did you doubt yourself in that time?
A little bit, yeah, 100%, yeah. Because the Suzuki obviously had a few good races. The BMW was difficult, and then we went to BMW again with OMG, and that was difficult. And then you sort of think, I've been on 2 teams with 2 BMWs. Maybe it's not the right. Maybe because I know Hickey won last year on the BMW. I think Buchan won at Knock Hill. So I sort of thought, do you know what? Maybe it is me that's not sort of fast enough anymore. But yeah, after that victory in Alton, I just like rejuvenised me a little bit and got me to say, right, I can win. Like, there's no doubt now. Like, there's no doubt that with the right bike and the right team, my talent's still there. That don't go away. I can still win. And it
was a big monkey off your back.
Oh, massive.
In many ways.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was just quite special to be 4 years without a victory, and then to win at Alton Park was just like, yeah, wait, because I should have done it at Silverstone. That was the most frustrating thing. I should have done it at Silverstone. I said to myself, I was like, well, I should have won that. What if I don't get an opportunity? And I said, no, I'm going to make an opportunity, because that wasn't my only chance to get a win. I'm going to win once, twice. I'm going to win all through the season.
Got 33 races.
Exactly, yeah.
Season. So 33 opportunities.
The bike was capable enough, so I drove to Alton and I was like, I'm going to win this weekend. I need to come away with a win.
Have you ever, do you manifest things? Do you think about things so that they happened, or was that an unconscious thought about Alton Park? Was it just something that popped, not a deliberate decision?
No, not a deliberate. No, I'm not saying I don't believe in manifesting, but it's a funny sort of line. It's I've only had it a couple of times with feeling like that, but I think because of Silverstone, and because I knew I had the pace, and I knew I was going to Alton on the Yamaha, that I felt right at home, and I knew Alton Park was a strong track for me, that I thought, there's no one on that grid that can beat me. There's literally no one. Like, there's no one on that grid that can beat me this weekend. I've got to go away with a victory. And then to get that in race 1, it was just like, right, it's just a relief. I sat in the camper at night, I just like, that feels good. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've been on the top step. God knows how many races, but yeah, it's quite special.
Too many races.
Yeah.
I was having a thought, I think, as while we're at Snetterton, actually. The course of the year has taken on kind of a win on the Saturday, podiums on the Sunday. It seemed to take a long time to win the longer races. And then all of a sudden, 2 come along at once. Because at Alton Park, you did the Saturday in the first race on the Sunday, 3rd in the 3rd race, one on the Saturday at Knock Hill, and podium and
the fourth and second,
wasn't it? 4th and 2nd. Yeah. And then Brands was 3/4, which we'll skip over that because we'll make amends for that in a couple of weeks' time. But it just seemed that the Sunday victories for sort of 3 rounds kind of eluded you a little bit. Cadwell, prime example, win on the Saturday, chasing Danny Buchan round. You were so evenly matched, you just could not get that extra bit. So we'll come to Snetterton in a second. Talk to me about Cadwell, because that qualifying lap, 0.2 down at the top of the mountain to finish 0.3 ahead at the line.
It was a joke, really. I knew after practice I had a bit of time in me. I wouldn't say a massive amount, but I knew I had some time in me. But obviously, being the Super Pole, it was difficult because you have one lap. Yeah. You have one lap. If you make one single mistake, you can't ride around and then go again. So it's almost like, I spoke to Shane before and he said, mate, we'll do like a pre-run in practice. So we'll put a new set of tyres in, go out, do one lap, come in. So I done that, went down the back straight, hit the brakes a little bit later than what I have been all weekend, and run wide. And I thought, right, I can't do that in the qualifying because I'll lose quite a bit of time. So going into qualifying, I thought, right, I'm going to just hit every marker. Shane said, hit every marker, be smooth. He said, front row's okay, second row's good, just make sure you get round. So I started the lap, went into turn 1, 2, 3, and at the time we're going through turn 2 to turn 3, I got a light on my dash which tells me if I'm up or down. So I went from red to green, which meant I was up. So I thought, right, I've done a 26 flat or 25.9 in practice. As long as I'm up on a 25.9, I'll be happy. I'll be 25.8, 25.7. Yeah, I'll be where I need to be. So I saw the green light and I thought, right, just keep that on. So I actually broke a little bit early down the back straight, got it in there, and then got through the next corner. And I thought, right, this for me, down the right of the gooseneck, and then the last sort of half sector and a half was sort of my territory. I knew that I could muscle the bike around quite well. So yeah, got to the bottom of the gooseneck, had that perfect, went through the chicane perfect, got the mountain absolutely spot on, like the best I've got it all weekend. And then at that point I thought, right, this last sector I'm gonna let it have it. So I literally went as quick as I could through the last sector, but still hit every marker. And come across the line, saw 25.4, and I was like, oh my god, that is a joke. That is a joke. And I wasn't expecting that, and obviously the team weren't expecting it from watching and seeing me 0.2 down going into the mountain section and then coming out 0.3 up. God knows how I'd done that.
Oh, that set the marker then for the next the 3 races, didn't it? You win in 2 second places at Cadwell, to then go to Snetterton and hit yours and the team's first treble. Mm-hmm. That was pretty special from everybody's point of view. Yeah. That really cemented you, because Thruxton, Taz and Jason kind of got the better of you both. For what, I mean, you could have thrown a blanket over you all in 3 races, 100%. But it doesn't matter. You're still second and third. So you can't take it away. It doesn't matter if it's 2 seconds or 2 hundredths. No. To then go to Snetterton, where they're both strong, and then do the hat-trick of victories, that really flagged you up as like, hang on a minute, we're on. Yeah,
100%. Yeah, because I knew going into Snetterton after the pre-season, we've got a strong package, and we worked a lot with that throughout the year. But I also know that Taz and Jason were fast there. I think Taz got 2 wins and Jason got the other win, and they were second and last year. So they pretty much McCann's dominated Snetterton last year. So going there, obviously knew that it's going to be a difficult round. So as long as because obviously at that point it was still the podium credit. So I thought to myself, as long as I'm thereabouts, I might be able to gain a few points back on Jason. I knew Taz was quite far back in the podium credits. So I thought if he gets a win, I get a second. It's only going to be a couple of points. So I knew I had to go there and finish on the podium in all 3 races to help me coming into the showdown. But yeah, qualifying didn't go to plan. Had a little crash and ended up starting 5th, I think. But straight away from practice in the dry, I knew I had strong pace. So I thought, right, sprint race is good for me. I always go well in a sprint race. So I get out in front, put the hammer down for a few laps and try and lead it. So I managed to pull enough of a gap to then settle down and manage it to the line to get race 1 victory. Race 2 was obviously a little bit different. I knew I had to do a similar strategy, but then I knew Taz had good pace because he started closing on me in the latter stages of the race 1. So tried to pull a gap, but he bit the bullet and sort of caught me up.
It's a tenacious little bugger.
Yeah, he is a little bugger. He's like a bulldog. But yeah, we were just battling. I led for a little bit of the race and then ran wide, and I saw it was Taz, and I thought, right, I'll let him go through. I see what he's about. And then sat behind him, and I knew I had a big gap to Tommy behind, so I knew I had to just try and play smart. But then I kept having problems with my shifter, so I started having use the clutch for downshifts and start blipping the throttle on upshifts. So it's a bit of a difficult one. So I thought, if worse comes to worse, I'll have to settle for a second and finish with 3 points instead of 5. But Taz used quite a bit of tyre at the start of the race to catch me, which hindered him at the end. I was able to get an unbelievable slipstream down the back straight. I actually broke, I think, 45 metres later than I have done all weekend into that under the bridge. And I knew that if I can lead under the bridge, come out of there on top, then the Coromar was strong, and I just had to get the last corner, square it off, and drive to the line. And yeah, obviously managed to do a double then, and I thought, right, the triple's definitely on. I knew Tommy had good pace going into race 3. I knew Glenn did, and I knew Taz did, but I just wanted to do the same strategy: get out in front at the start, lead for as long as possible, try and make a gap. If I didn't make a gap, then just sit with Taz and make a plan. But obviously, safety car come out, and then we had that issue with the safety car, and I knew after that, I looked behind, I saw Glenn, I saw Tommy, and I thought, right, I need to get in front of Taz as quick as possible, because they're going to start attacking. So I got in front of Taz, put the hammer down for a few laps, and then he got in a bit of a fisticuff with Glenn, which then allowed me enough of a gap to settle into them. But I didn't realise that we had the 2-second penalty, so I was lucky that I had a big enough gap and didn't shut off going across the line. Otherwise, it would have been a disaster. But no, to come away with the treble there, obviously to beat Taz fair and square, because them boys always seem to beat me in the longer races.
I think
towards
up to that
the end.
point, they always seem to just have that little
just
bit more
edge,
on a Sunday, didn't they? This is what I mean. It's like, well, hang on a minute, how do we just, even if it's a couple of tenths,
so that was quite special to be able to do that on the Sunday's long race and have a battle with Taz and beat him fair and square, and then win the second race on Sunday as well. So Snet was just like a perfect weekend, probably the best weekend I've had in my superbike career.
I would think that's fair.
Yeah. Not bad.
I would think that's fair. Yeah. And the Race of Aces trophy.
Yeah, that's good.
Man of the meeting.
Yeah. No, it's just...
I don't know how you managed to get all those trophies home.
Mum and Dad take some of them. But
you need a bigger mantle.
Yeah, I do, yeah. But I had a nice glass of red wine that night, and yeah, it was lovely.
Well worth it.
Yeah.
And then Alton Park last weekend. We're on a quick turnaround now. Alton Park last weekend, it was weird, wasn't it? It just felt... first weekend of the showdown, it just all felt a bit weird.
Yeah, it was strange. I just went there and tried to approach it as every other weekend as normal. Yeah, obviously the Saturday's race was good, and then the Sunday's race was going well, and then I got red flagged, then restarted, then red flagged again, and then restarted. But at that point we had a new set of tyres in, and for some reason I couldn't get the best out of them tyres. I don't know whether it was a duff tyre or what, but I couldn't eke out the gap at the start of the race that I needed to, and my lap times were a lot slower than what they have been all weekend. So it was frustrating to lead both restarts by 3 seconds and then end up finishing third in the race.
In the bag both times,
100%.
For the pace that you had.
Yeah, and it was difficult because we should have... I think if that... I don't know what the plan was restarting it, but... Yeah, it was a bit of a strange restart and a strange way to go about. Obviously, for me, it was a bit frustrating because Bridewell had the penalty and started at the back of the grid, got himself up to about 6th, so he wouldn't have been on the podium in that second race, and then got red flagged, and then he obviously new tyre in, and then he ended up finishing second. So that was quite frustrating. And then race 3. Similar sort of thing, really. Didn't seem to have the tyre, didn't seem to have the grip that I had done all weekend. Whether the track temperature played a part in that coming down. Obviously, with the race was a little bit later, but yeah, the positive is we left the weekend with a 40-point advantage and started it with 13. So that's the positive to take. But it would have been nice to gain more points on Tommy, and obviously
it's almost a look at what you could have won thing, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
That. It was a frustrating way, but you thought, well, hang on a minute, that penalty's been negated now.
Yeah, and that's another
just through
thing.
Circumstance.
Well, it's strange because when you think of what happened on Saturday with Jason and Peter, he got disqualified from the results, and then the next day the exact same thing happens. So you think the penalty should be the same, if not worse, because of what happened the day before.
We were kind of expecting a black flag to appear.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of things that you could say and a lot of things that you could go into, but we just got to get on with it and keep doing what we're doing.
And here we are now with 6 races from the end of the season. Things are looking good. I think we're allowed to say that. We're looking positive. I know you still take things round by round. What's your mindset for this weekend? What do you approach Donington compared to back in May?
I think same thing really. Obviously the most important thing for me is to stay in front of Tommy, to stay in front of Lee and Glenn and people like that, but ultimately you got to finish a race, and at the end of the day we're in the showdown, we're fighting for the championship now, but you're not going to come out champion if you don't push 110% in the races and try and get the wins. If you start settling for seconds, thirds and fourths, before you know it, the gap's going to be gone, and that be it. So for me, it's going to be the same sort of approach going into every weekend now, and every race. Just need to go out and win, and that's simple as that. But yeah, sometimes you got to use your head a little bit and settle for a result instead of chucking it down the road. But ultimately, I'm in a good place, regardless of getting a middle finger from Alan, regardless of what happens from now to the end of the year. I think myself and the team have done an unbelievable job. We've been the most competitive all year, and the frustrating thing for me was after Alton, I sat down and I looked, and I think I should be 120 points in front of Jason in the championship. So for me, coming to Donington with 6 rounds to go, I could just come here, finish a few races and be champion. But that's the frustrating thing about the showdown. And I've always said since day one, I think the showdown's wrong, to be honest, because it doesn't show the true champion at the end of the year. Sometimes it does. Sometimes the champion, the cream always rises to the top. But you could have 27 or 24 races and be super consistent, do really well, and go like Jason has, be taken out in 2 races, be slightly injured coming into it, and that's him done. Yeah. And you would like to say that coming into Donington now and Brands, he's probably one of the strongest and the favourites to start winning races. Absolutely. And getting a good result. So it's a shame in that respect, but I don't think it's ever going to change. I think...
What is he now, 11 12 years now? This is his 12th season?
Regardless of... It's all to... I'm not going to go into it, but the champion's a champion at the end of the day, from start to finish, the most consistent rider. It's the same in all championship, it's the same in World Superbike, same in MotoGP. Regardless of... It's almost like you can just poodle along, get yourself in the showdown, and then once you're in the showdown, then you can up a gear and start doing it. And to be honest, you saw that a little bit at Alton. Some people just get that extra gear
Park
and think...
has a completely different complexion. When you get to the showdown, the racing is different, the feel is different, the vibe is different.
Yeah, 100%.
All of a sudden, you suddenly go, were we just playing at it?
Yeah, exactly that.
Now it matters.
It is frustrating. It is very frustrating, but you can't change it. It's never going to change. You just got to get on with it and try and be as consistent. But anything can happen. You can have a couple of mechanicals this weekend and that's your championship done. Whereas the work you've done at the start of the year, if I had a 120 point lead and a couple of mechanicals, I'm still pretty safe. I can still just try and do what I've got to do.
Breathing room,
exactly that. But yeah, we move on. We just keep doing it.
I think there's going to be some solace in the fact that you led at the showdown, and should you be crowned British champion in 2 weeks' time, British Superbike champion in 2 weeks' time, there's solace saying, well, I won the first part of the season and I've won the second part of the season. Yeah. So for consistency and point of view from there, I think that's the way that you can mark your season. You've seen it with Leon Haslam, that he's led coming in and things have happened. But I think the consistency, it's been a pleasure to watch you grow this season and how you've dealt with certain situations and certain scenarios. And all I can do for taking the team hat off from the podcast perspective and all the listeners that we have, wish you all the very best for the next 6 races. Much. This podcast will go out the Friday of Brands, so I'll do a caveat from the weekend to round it off. Sound. But Bradley Ray, we wish you all the very best for the next 6 races.
Appreciate it.
Let's see what comes.
We'll get stuck in and have a good go at lifting that trophy.
A big thank you to Brad Ray, and we wish Brad and the team all the very best for what should be an incredible weekend for everyone involved down at Brands Hatch. As well as a wonderful heartfelt tribute to Chrissy Rouse scheduled on Saturday, courtesy of BSB and MSVR, you may have seen that OMG Racing and FS3 Racing will be holding their annual auction at Brands Hatch on Saturday evening at 6:30pm at the Rich Club Hospitality Unit, and hosted by yours truly. This year, proceeds from the auction will go to the family of our great friend Chrissy Rouse. There are some incredible items coming up for auction, and I can't wait to get things underway and raise as much money as possible for his amazing family in such tough times. It's bids on the night, so if you can't make it, but you know someone who is, then feel free to do it remotely. But please don't ask me, I've got enough to do. Keep an eye on social media for more details from the team and from BSB. Sadly this week, we lost another bright young talent as Victor Stamen succumbed to injuries sustained in a crash during a World Supersport 300 race at Portimao at the age of just 22. All of us at Off Track send our sincere condolences to the family, friends, team and supporters of Victor at this most difficult of times. It can be a tough sport sometimes. Until next week, look after each other. Bye-bye.